Is that Neil?
I saw him earlier, he said he.
Not there, yes, sorry.
Oh, there
I was
he
looking
is.
over
Are you in
the
trouble
wall.
now?
Sorry.
Are you in trouble? Sorry, guys.
But, hey, you're here
Reports to the library and offer detention. That's right. Derek, roll call.
Okay, Councilmember Wood. Here. Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Liberty. Here. Councilmember Ritchie.
Here.
Mayor Taylor.
Here.
Councilmember Donovan.
and here.
Councilmember Soroka.
Actually here.
Councilmember.
Yes. All right, awesome. Item 3, reading and consideration of the minutes of the meeting held on April 8th, 2024. Are there any suggested changes or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes are approved as submitted. Item 4, presentation and consideration of a historical marker at the Pier Park Observation Deck. Mr. Reese.
Actually, I will turn it over to our honorable judge. Chip Birchback is here, Charles Birchback, with the proposal that he approached the city with, which I think is rather exciting. So I'll turn it over to.
Your Honor. Your Honor.
Mayor, council members, let me just pass this around for you. I know you've got this in your material. I'll be brief. I know you've got a big agenda in front of you. So I was been walking around cities and seeing similar markers like this and really thought about it. I don't really see anything in the Grosse Points. Similar to this. We have brass plaques, we have state historical markers, and so I got my wife and I, Susie, got the idea of creating one to put at the Farms Park. It would commemorate the discovery in quotes of the Lake St. Clair on August 12th by LaSalle. And so I talked to Shane about it. He said, why don't you bring it to council? So we've created this plaque using some material from the Tom Core book. And it talks about the discovery of the lake. And we thought the best place, an ideal place, would be on the observatory at the Farms Pier. I think it would generate a lot of interest. We asked the Historical Society and they allowed us to put their name and their QR code on there. So if people want to find out more information about the Historical Society or other historical things, they can go to the QR code, go to the website, hopefully generate their interest. So I'd really like to, I hope this kind of spurs some interest in other communities and other donors would be interested. So Susie and I are donating this with the hope that the council will approve this to put up on the observatory. Any questions? I'm here to answer them. Questions? No?
I had one question actually. Number one, thank you. I'm really excited about seeing it and hopefully we'll inspire more people to do it. I'm just confirming Lac St. Clair is the French spelling of lake, so you wanted to do that at the top?
Yes, we went back and forth with the graphic designer who's actually on the St. Clair Shores Historical Commission. It was very helpful. She pretty much designed that based on what I provided her with a copy and the graphic. But we went back and forth, especially on the copy, about using the French name and then the correct spelling. So that came also right from Tonnecourt, so that's a pretty good source.
Any questions from the public? Oh, sorry. No?
Yeah, it's gonna go on the deck at the Pier Park?
Exactly.
Yeah, right on the top, not down at the bottom.
No, on the top, so people have a view of it as they're reading the copy.
Yeah, there's actually a very attractive metal pedestal that will sit in. That's the actual size of what the final plaque will look like. So, we'll have it set back from the railing, a certain number of feet, in a way that's not obstructive, but in a way that people can, review it and it lets it clear.
Anybody else on council? John?
Judge Birchback, thank you very much for bringing this and for putting your time and effort. Do I recall correctly that the ship, the Griffin, is still one of those most popular wrecks that people are looking for? I seem to recall Nat Geo special on that. And there's a gentleman in Traverse City who's devoted the last 20 years or so of his life trying to find this wreck, and they don't know if it's here, like Ontario. So
That is correct.
thank you, sir.
Anybody in the public have any questions on this item? Seeing none, I guess we need just official action too. So, thank you, Judge, and thank you, Susie, and it's awesome. Thank you very much.
I think that's sufficient, yeah.
That's all we need, I don't think we need official vote, yeah, okay, so we look forward to
Thank
the
you, and
donation.
we hope to have it set up and ready before the anniversary. So August 12th is kind of our hopefully installation by then, so I'll work with Shane on that. Hopefully we can get it up there.
All right, thanks, Chip, awesome, all right, thank you, yeah. Item 4, do I have a motion to adjourn as the city council and convene as the board of zoning appeals? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 1, consideration of request for dimensional variance for 117 Mapleton Road. Is anybody here to present on behalf of petitioners? Seeing none, nobody here. Mr. Council, do we just adjourn or do we just note for the record that nobody appeared on behalf of the site?
Well,
Sarah.
yeah, let's do one thing for the record, so, I think the council's aware that Mr. Baca had a meeting that he facilitated several days ago, with the applicant and a number of the adjoining neighbors on Mapleton, which caused, as I understand it, a revision, a slight revision of the plans. But if there's no one here on behalf of the applicant, I think city council, board of zoning appeals just considers the matter withdrawn. And they have to start over, they have to start over. One more comment for the record. Based upon the facts that were introduced in the written application and at the board of zoning board of zoning appeals hearing in April, there wouldn't have been sufficient facts in the record to find a practical difficulty, which would have meant that the application would have failed as a matter of law. So if this ever comes back in front of the board in future months, the applicant's going to have to be advised to articulate legitimate facts that would cause the finding of practical difficulty. But we didn't have to go there tonight since no one has shown up. So I think you simply consider the matter withdrawn.
Okay, so I'll say for the record, I talked to the applicant about some of those shortcomings. He said he was going to be here, but he also said he was feeling ill. So he had been diagnosed, had been in the hospital with some pneumonia earlier in about a week or so ago, but around the time of the meeting, either right before or after the meeting. So I probably expect him to come back, but I just don't know when. Who knows?
So it would be within the discretion of the Board of Zoning Appeals, given what you heard and just stated, to adjourn this for another 30-day period. And I certainly wouldn't object to that occurrence. But once again, if they're going to come back in the June or July regular meetings, they need to be advised that the record as it currently stands would not permit a variance to be approved.
Well, administratively, could not Mr. Baca say, I can't put this in front of council for that very reason, here in the zoning board?
Yes.
So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Sure. Bill, in your experience, how many bites of the apple does an applicant typically get? I mean, is it just up to our good nature and stuff to allow them to come back and come back and come back, or is it like that?
Well, this evening is an unusual circumstance in that we anticipated the applicant to be here and perhaps for health reasons was not able to appear. So I wouldn't necessarily hold this one against him. So comment? Well, the answer to your question is putting aside an unusual circumstance, typically twice.
Or a sufficient change in plans.
Correct. Okay, well,
Dr. Pantos, you're actually up. You're up. We almost adjourned because you're late. We're on your item. So please approach the podium. Yes, please come up to the podium.
flew and I was in hospital for 5 days, and my voice is very bad. So I just, I got this, granddaughter, my brother's granddaughter, graduated from science was high, grade 0.5 school, and is was a very excellent student with 3 times student of the month. This is what I have to say because I cannot.
So she doesn't have to read it again because we have it in front of us, so we read it, so we just want to know what comments, she can articulate them for you.
I can do it.
She can articulate anything, we already read your letter,
You did
so,
that.
yes, so if there's something more she wants to add on your behalf, since you're having difficulty
Yes.
speaking, she's welcome to do so.
Yes.
And then we can then discuss what she has to say once you're done presenting.
One thing, hold
Honorable Mayor, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I have not read this. You just got it.
I emailed it, is this what you emailed there earlier?
No,
Yes.
I have not seen it.
So if you want to
Fine.
take
We'll let him take a few minutes while he
I-
prepares.
It's a lot to go through. I appreciate it. Yeah, brother. I wanna hear the rest.
One thing I can tell you about this, one of the residents of Warsaw, Southern Mapleton, objects to the fact that, exactly, using the library over the bedroom.
We can't, doctor, I can't hear you. So she, if your granddaughter can articulate it for you, it'd be easier for us.
The one section reads this line. Realistically speaking, he, resident of 127 Mapleton, has no grounds to object the variance because of backyard logging.
So we're gonna take a minute, I'm gonna give our council a quick moment to read your letter, see if there's anything added in that letter that is in addition to your application. But we can say that at least based on what you presented us so far, doctor, you haven't presented us with the practical difficulty in all the submissions you've given us to show why you need some of the variance requests that you've made, including the second floor, the ramp, etc. So it would be impermissible for us as a zoning board to approve it at this time, because what you presented does not meet the legal threshold of what we require. You can translate that, I talk to my people all the time, you can try to, if he gets it, but legally, we don't see anything here as a zoning board that would allow this to go forward based on some of your requests and the reasons for those requests.
For the second floor. The first floor is acceptable, is that
No. Anything right now does not fit legal requirements, because you have not described to us what the practical difficulty is for this particular house for the changes you're requesting.
So we
It's
can-
not just the second floor.
I thought that the first floor was acceptable. I was wrong.
You'd have to make a separate presentation narrowed to just the first floor addition as to why you have a difficulty to add even that addition.
Even that's.
Yes, because that independently might have a different practical difficulty than a full first and second floor.
All right, then I have to read first, different, but this is not.
Even the ramp that you added needs its own description as to why you need it and what its use is, because it would be out of conformity as well.
Okay, so I have another chance then.
I think, well, there's a different, you'd have to give us a substantially different plan to be considered at a different time.
Okay,
Because generally, any modification of the original plan would have to be so substantial that we would allow you, or we would consider a third bite at the apple.
so I should leave it as it is, unless I can come with a different plan.
You have to be a completely different plan with the exact reasons why it's difficult to even proceed with that change. So, will you withdraw this application? So that would allow you to try to come back for a different, like substantially different, and reason why you need that difference. So you understand?
Maybe given some time to investigate.
Yes, so what I would do is withdraw this plan completely, and then if you want to come back in 2 months with a different plan, then you could see Mr. Baca again with that plan, but you would still need independent reasons as to why a new plan works when this one did not.
Now, the reason of the, reason I want to put the rent on, because I know many people need rent, my wife,
Right,
now, I thought that would be no problem as far as rent is concerned. I have material that we can use on the.
I understand, but I need you,
Material that would allow us to, make the, back porch adequate, we are using the other material.
okay, I understand, but that's a separate matter. But I also need you to understand, in the period between today and whenever you come back, you have to make sure that your caretaker at that house maintains the house and the surrounding areas, any construction, any extra pilings you have there, et cetera, all has to be cleaned up and taken care of before you come back here, so your neighbors aren't seeing what you're doing, what you're thinking you're preparing for. You should at least make sure you maintain the house in good condition for the neighborhood. Is that okay?
I have 28 signatures in favor.
No, I understand, but it doesn't matter if it doesn't meet the legal threshold. So, but while we wait for a revised plan that you say might try to meet the legal threshold, in the meantime, please make sure you maintain the house.
Of course I will.
Okay, thank you.
That's twice already.
All right, so we will consider this withdrawn. And whenever you're ready to come back with something else, if you come back, you understand it has to be a different design and with independent reasons for that design for impractical difficulty. Okay? All right, thank you.
So when you withdraw it and then you have a month or two to come back.
Exactly, but you have to give notice to all the neighbors again for the new design, the whole thing. Mr. Baca will tell you if you've met the legal requirement before you come back to us. So you won't be able to see the zoning board here unless you have met the legal threshold, okay?
Okay, thank you.
And Honorable Mayor, could you just restate about him properly storing the materials that are in the driveway, so he understands?
Yeah, to the extent you have material that's in your driveway, please store it in the garage or otherwise someplace else, so it's not exposed to the elements and out of sight of your neighbors, okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So for those of you who are here for this item, it's withdrawn, and you'll get notice if he does come back.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, item B for the zoning board, consideration of request for dimensional variance for 270 Grosse Point Boulevard. Is the applicant here? And if so, please take the podium and give us your name and address.
Yes, Your Honor. Jim County, 270 North Point Boulevard. And I also have the nearest neighbor who couldn't be here tonight, but he gave me their recommendation.
You can give that to the clerk and he'll pass it on.
Yeah, you have a copy.
Oh, we got, that's the same one you sent, that's the same one you sent to the email, I think, the
D'Agostini.
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
We'll go through your package, we read it, but if you wanna give us some highlights, that'd be good.
Just, the original plan was that this is the back end of Henry Joy's estate owned by Fair Acres. And there was a garage in the backyard. That was the original garage we used to store cars. But that irritated the neighbors on Carmel Lane. And then we said, well, then we'll just sell it, sell it off, and somebody, the guy was actually gonna store cars in there. We got that approved, but then it just turned out he didn't really want to do it, cost him too much money. We didn't really want a house in our backyard either, so we said the heck with it. And then we ended up tearing it down. So the cars that I have are going to, we were going to share a little bit. So now I've got the issue of storing additional cars. And I think if everybody looks at it from the frontal view, click over to that, you see both sides. It actually looks fairly balanced, better than just the one car garage or the one garage for one side. So we thought, well, you know what? Rather than cars parked and moving them around, well, let's put it in a separate garage, which we connected to the house per the area of the code, and give us more parking spaces. As everybody knows, the headache in Grosse Pointe, if you have more than a few cars, there's no place to put them. And I've looked at other things, we're trying to find a building that to put them in is more like Ashland and Jefferson, right alter there. There's a 2-car, you know what show.
I know.
Yeah, and that building sold stupid money and it's all, so that opportunity went away because you can make business out of storing people's cars. But anyway, so that's why I'm back and said, well, so I thought we'd do this. We're gonna do the same shade roof on it. It's actually a little smaller than the other garage. The deals are fine with it, but the most impacting ones. My neighbors are here from the others from behind, further back. Tim and Lisa Fraser, so they were concerned about water because originally when we built the place, we had a water issue because it was back after COVID and there's no sides, so the water was blowing across the dirt in their yard and because it was lower than us. And anyways, that's since been cured because whatever we do is we run the drain pipes down into our sewer system, into our storm system. So it actually, I was explaining to Lisa, that'll be better because there won't be much, I think the water pump is a problem anymore. But all the pipes flow down the spouts are connected to this function.
Any questions from the zoning board?
So thank you for coming and explaining it to us. So the practical difficulty is that you don't have enough space to park your 6 cars?
Yes.
How big is your property?
It's 140 feet wide, and I think it's 400 long. So what I did, I sold off the back 150 foot to Dr. Mulligan, who had a small yard.
Right.
And he bought a chunk across the back, and that's when we got rid of the garage. So it's super deep. But I think it's probably, shoot, I bet it's probably 350 or 400 feet deep right now.
So that's how many square feet? 40,000 is an acre approximately.
Yeah, it would be about 35,000 if his numbers are accurate.
And we did approve renovation of the garage at one point for Doug Fox.
Fox, right.
Make it into a home in a garage. That's all. Thank you.
I have a question. Sir, have you had any events or, parties at your home where parking was an issue?
Yeah, that's another good point, because we have 4 kids and 6 grandkids. And yeah, when everybody shows up, it's not really a headache, because the street's nice, it's wide. And you're up and down the street. We have a party, we do a valet service that parks the cars. So it isn't, but just as a daily thing, moving cars are out. That's the headache, and you know, if I didn't have the room, I wouldn't be here, but we have the room. And we probably should have done it at my old house, we had 2 garages. But I thought, yeah, we don't need that. And I think it actually balances the house better for the whole bar when you look at it instead.
And I appreciate you stating in your application how it was just not something you thought of.
Yeah, we should have done it originally, and I'm not sure that we had to get a variance for the garage in the front, probably we didn't back up. This place is the guy who built for it. Built for it. So thank you, and yes, it's like, okay, we woke up, it's like, all right. So, here I am, that's your first.
John? No questions.
No, sir.
Left.
Mr. McConaughey, thank you very much for coming. You were here, you heard what we were discussing in terms of the last case, and the issue of practical difficulty is critical. Practical difficulty means that there is a dimensional problem with your lot. That is to say that you live maybe on a corner lot, or it's oddly shaped, or there's a wetland that you can't build on, or there's a beautiful big huge tree like used to be in your backyard, as I recall, that's now on Paul's property. The issue here is you've said that your practical difficulty is that you forgot when you were doing your construction. Seems to me that the issue should be here not with us, but it should be with the builder. However, you're here asking us for a variance that, as far as I can tell so far, there is no practical difficulty. And additionally, it is self-created. That is to say that if the practical difficulty that we agree with you is self-created, we can't give you a variance. So there's 2 strikes. The third thing is that you have in your application compared your situation with the Schultes house on Ross. That's a completely different zoning district, first of all. Not the same zoning district as you, so they have different abilities to do things that you don't in your zoning district. Okay, so that makes a difference. They actually had a practical difficulty, which at this moment I can't recall because it was some time ago. So there is no substantial justice being done here. So I have a problem with the lack of substantial justice being given to you. There's nobody else up and down Grosse Pointe Boulevard that's got 6 garages. There's no
2 garages. With 6 days.
6 days. There's nobody, or you haven't articulated, in my view, a practical difficulty that meets the standard of the law. And beyond that, it appears to me that this is self-created. So I'm having a hard time with this application.
Well, Mr. Wood, can I address your concerns for a minute? Yeah. So if we could jump back for a minute, is that the garage was a 4-car garage and a 2,700 square foot original garage for Henry Joy was on the back part of the property. So we could run a road in off of Carmel Lane, or we could run a road in from the boulevard, which I really look stupid because we run to our carport and then take a right around the house and go way back there. So that's practical difficulty. That was the original thought, but then that kind of went away with the 2 things I said to you. And by that time, we were already in motion building, and it wasn't a choice to have another garage at the time. So I'm honest and say, as Mrs. Donovan brought up, is that, hey, you know, looking back, we should have just dumped the matching garage at the beginning, like the guy who lived in a different district on Ross. Like he did, but we had a plan with that garage house because it was a cool place. Well, it all changed because we ended up not doing it, ended up not selling it, we ended up tearing it down. So you're right, it's all self-inflicted for sure, but it's the reality of it is a headache. So somebody that had more than a few cars, you know, a parking problem. And you know, the other side of it is that when you have your cars parked over the garage someplace, you know, wherever down one track or any of those places, you never use them because they're a headache to go get. So the convenience factor of having the cars right there is kind of nice. So that's part of the rest of the story.
So you need it for the additional storage. You mentioned M1.
Yeah, well, yes. I don't own a place out there, And most of the guys that I talked to that have invested out there, it's like, they never go there. You know, it's 40 minutes away, and it just, so. But it's for Detroit.
Anybody else on the zoning board? All right, anybody in the public want to speak? We've missed you, it's been like 10 years. So
You know, hi, I'm Tim Frazier. I'm the owner of 26 Christine, which is adjacent to the property. Roughly as proposed, the McConaughey additional garage would be roughly 18 feet from the back of our lot line, so it's not the entire lot, based on how the lots align. Fundamentally, though, there were two concerns that we had. One was the water management. The original elevation on the lot, and Mr. Baca knows this, was originally we had a lot of water issues that were where we had significant water ingress. Mr. McConaughey was very supportive in helping resolve that topic. And there's what we consider manageable, even when the downpours occur. We still get seepage, but it was nowhere significantly better than when we first had the discussions. So, and I think that was one of the constraints for the occupancy of the COO. So, you know, Mr. McConaughey's been supporting that. Our concern is if you start putting a structure there, how it gets managed is the surface and the speed in which it comes down. I'm an engineer, not a civil engineer, so but I do know a fair amount about fluid dynamics. We need to make sure that, or we would like to say that if you do grant the variance, that the water management has to be a significant portion of this, because we don't want to revisit that process. And unfortunately, it was, Jim couldn't see it until I started. Mr. McConaughey or Mr. Baca couldn't see the results until I started videoing, what happened that time of rain. Grass was one of the elements, but the main issue is the elevation and the grade at which it decreases toward the back. So if it goes toward the back of the house, it's going to be a problem. If it goes toward the front of the house, toward the boulevard, then it shouldn't mitigate the issue. So
I forgot to say, you gotta give us your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tim, I said
that.
26 Christine.
Yeah, he said
I'm
that.
sorry, I'm Tim Frazier.
I know, he introduced you. So
Okay.
I want you to
Okay.
introduce yourself.
Yep, I'm Tim Frazier, 26 Christine, owner.
So I think you mentioned he's gonna try to connect the downspouts to the separate storms, so that remedy the issue.
So there's dry wells that were existing at the back of the house that are overflowing or had overflown at one point. So I don't know what is the connection to the storm sewer system, but I know that we took measures. So I don't know whether that addresses it in terms of putting it toward the front of the house, if there's a second storm sewer. The other part is, it is closer to the property line, so it will be a dominant view for our backyard because it turns out to be the side of our yard. So that has an impact in the sense of the height, which is the same height as the garage on the symmetric side. So that the side of the house and garage become the dominant view of, which is a concern, if they're able to maintain the spruces that are there and things of that nature in order to mitigate that. But fundamentally, we'll be ending up looking out the side of our house, seeing more of the, let's say, an adjacent building, which at this point there is. So those are my comments. That's my perspective. We support whatever the council proceeds with. Comments or
Questions? All right, thank you. Anybody else from the public want to speak? Is there anyone respond? Sure, go ahead.
Address some Tim's concerns that the spruce trees are all staying.
They're doing a microphone, sorry.
Sorry. The spruce trees are all staying on the property. The garage is not going to affect those. We're beyond the borderline for the setback for sure. And the garage is actually as tall as the other one because it's actually dimensionally a little bit smaller. It's like 20 by 30, as opposed to the other one's a 3.5 car garage. And it's a taller peak. We're not going to put a cupola up there or light it. So I think it's really minimalized. If you look at the site plan, which I included, you'll see their backyard is quite a ways back. And if which is the west side there, in fact, their backyard comes up to just barely to the corner of the building. The D'Agostino's, who are really directly across from it, no problem. It's not too high on the eyes to look at. I redid the really beautiful 2-foot long wood shakes that are gonna stick. They're gorgeous, and it's about an 8 or 10, 12 pitch. So it's up there, but it's not. And so I just thought I'd throw a couple of things in. As far as the water goes, there's not gonna be a problem because the water goes down the downspouts into my system and goes up to my pool. That's not gonna be an issue. Thank you.
Would you be willing to put some arborvitae's on that one side to shelter their view? You're saying no?
I mean, the spruces are there.
Okay. Yeah, they're taller.
They're not gonna be tall enough. They're tall. They're getting taller. They're about 20 feet tall.
You must be talking about from your second story window.
No, from.
You have a 6
All right. This way, gotta talk to the zoning board.
Yeah,
You guys can talk about the hallway.
Okay. Yeah,
Over the
there's
fence.
6 foot fence
I got it, yeah.
there. A stockade 6-foot fence, my trees are already taller than that. Yeah. So if you're in the backyard.
All right, we saw it, I saw it. All right, anybody else in the public? Name and address, please, I did it right this first time.
Catherine Sauer, we are 234 Provenza. This is related but not really. The statement was made that drainage would be connected to the main.
Storm sewer, not the combined storm, so that goes out to the.
Okay, and I guess my question is, I remember, it's gotta be 15 years ago, that we all got letters that said we could no longer connect.
Combined, into the
Combined
combined
or
sewer.
sanitary.
Into the combined or sanitary.
Okay, so.
This is different, this is
go
the
into
storm
sewer.
sewer, yeah.
Okay, this was clarification. Thank you so much.
Good to see you again. Good to see you again. New visitors. Meet needs, that's it. All right, anybody else in the public? All right, public comment is closed. Do I, any wish from the council?
May I ask a question through yourself, Mr. Mayor, to the city attorney? Has there been sufficient evidence on the record to establish the existence of a practical difficulty?
Well, I listened to Councilman Wood's commentary, and I think that this is both complicated and a close call. It's complicated by the passage of time. If the Board of Zoning Appeals would have considered this at the time of the original plans / construction, and when we were considering other potential changes in nearby properties, I think it would have been pretty easy to articulate a practical difficulty that was not self-created. And so now we have a passage of time. I think that it's a close enough call, given the history of the development of this property, that I think the board could find adequate facts with respect to a practical difficulty. I think the issue of the self-created nature would force you to take, some of us are old enough to remember Sherman and the Wayback Machine. You kind of have to do that to be able to avoid the self-created issue. Did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Trying to think about these some clarity on that. I might myself. Or is a question?
I mean, I can give you a hypothetical.
Well, no, I mean, when I was looking back, the options were, which we looked at and voted on, were selling that house, that land, giving the entrance off of, Carmel
Carmel
Lane,
Lane.
Christine, there, the whole end of the street. Letting another house be built, or somebody moving into that, renovating the garage, keeping a 3-car garage, or considering a simple parcel. So that house, that lot was losing a 3-car garage, and we would have ended up with, so he says, well, I'm losing 3, give me 5. So that's not self-created on the trade sheet.
Correct. It would not have been self-created at that time.
Right. But at the same time, I always think we lose sight of, it's still a property issue that this is a big lot. I don't think it would have been an issue back then. And the practical difficulty is, yes, in some ways I didn't think about it, but it's also, what am I gonna do with all the stuff I got? So I can actually use it, and is it really self-created? Because I was trying to do something else that didn't work, and I decided not to do it, and frankly, to the benefit of neighbors, didn't have a house built, or somebody driving up Carmel Lane back and forth, was one of the big issues with all the traffic going up and down Carmel Lane, to get into the old garage with the apartment on top.
For the size of this lot, with the recent history of what the alternatives were, a non-self-created practical difficulty could have been articulated pretty easily.
No, I don't disagree, but I'm also saying that look what we ended up with. Is even with this added, is a far better result.
Agreed.
Than what was contemplated. I'm almost, it's not excusing the lack of self-creativeness, but it's actually better when we end up with, even with this garage, in terms of its use in this space compared to what we would have, might have happened.
I don't have a vote, but I concur with what you said.
Okay, sorry, that gets it. Neil?
I guess my one question is, what is the reason why we have this zoning ordinance that says only one garage? If we say that, and I think there can be arguments about whether or not we should have that or not, but we have an ordinance that says this, because we want to have a creative character in our.
But he literally, and Matt, I might be overstating this, could he literally attach this to the existing garage and have one multiple car garage? Is there a limitation?
He would still need a variance because each garage can't have more than 4 bays.
Okay.
So the one is 3.5. So if he was to add on to that more than a half bay, it would require a variance for that.
But what's the lot coverage right now with this addition?
I was just looking, it's not listed on the plan, but I can't imagine it's over 15%. You know, maybe less.
That area, Lev's questions about, the other one was R1 AAA, this is R1 AA.
Correct.
35% here?
25.
25, so he's still 10% below.
Yeah.
Keep thinking about the house on Shelf. The zoning board didn't think, so the person just turned on the house and put the Hampton in. There are some things about letting people use their property for appropriate use. And back to Neil's question, is this one of those close calls that we're overthinking ourselves on this? I'm still chewing across. Sierra, do you have a question?
Yes, if
Or
Mr.
statement, doesn't have a question.
How do you pronounce his last name?
Okay.
If he could come back to the
Sure.
podium, please, I have a question. Because I remember we granted a variance and the applicant was able to articulate the need for the garage upper story because he had expensive equipment he wanted to store there. So could you tell us a little bit about the cars that's why I had mentioned the M1. You could share with us these cars that you're looking to store as part of your practical difficulty.
They're classic cars, typically from the 70s. But I've got Ferrari, an AC Cobra, different cars, and that really, if I go back and listen to you talk, it really goes back to the fact that the original plan got changed, and it was too late to change the garage. So I thought, well, we'll come back and do that. Let's see what happens. And that whole thing turned around, and you guys approved it to let me sell it to Doug Fox and Doug Fox approve it. But then we woke up and said, we really want a house in our backyard. And the neighbor said, hey, let me just buy 100 feet of that. And he's got dogs, really, he's a friends, someplace to run his dogs, Dr. William. And so then he bought that off as a no-brainer. He bought that, we tore the garage out, which was an eyesore for everybody. And got rid of it, and which was expensive as well. And then, oh, right now we're, parking, shuffling cars around. So.
So how many cars do you want to store? How many cars do you have at home? Do you already have?
7 cars, but I have some of them.
Where are they stored now?
Kind of scattered around, and I have the garage.
So there's nothing local for you to store your car collection that's in one spot to have them all there.
Right.
And your hope would be to have one spot to have them on your property.
Yep, and it'd be, for real, you can walk outside and take this one to dinner and take that one, put it away. I'm gonna drive something to dinner, I'm not gonna take to work, I've got Suburban as a deal. But, 70 Boss Mustang.
So the community does not have a space sufficient for you to store your cars anymore. And you incur the cost of storing them elsewhere.
Yes, sir. And the headache of going back and forth.
And the possibility that some storage facility, you have to carry extra insurance, you have to pay for it. Might not have your safety, or not have the same safety concerns, or safety protocols you have in your garage.
Every insurance charges you more, it's not your possessions, storage.
And the lack of, well, that's another thing. I'm trying to help out here, it's like, okay. Stop there, yeah.
I'm sorry, irrational is a bit of a stretch for me. I understand some of your constraints there, but we have an ordinance. And if you want to have 4 cars, I think that's truly an extension of it. 6 cars with 2 bays on each. I'm very familiar with this property. I'm familiar with people that had the house before. They had 8 kids, by the way. So, and they also had a lot of cars somehow. They didn't have collector cars. And that raises a practical difficulty in and of itself. When you purchase a vintage car, you obviously know that you have to find some place to store it. So I just don't see the practical difficulty here in our residential area. And it sets a precedence. I think that you've got enough land that you could probably do this adequately. But I don't, and I appreciate the architectural and the renderings. But I think it sets a bad precedence for our community. 6 bays, in my estimation, with the practical difficulty being determined that some of these are vintage cars and car collections. That's very difficult for me to swallow when the next person comes here, doesn't have a vintage car, but wants to have 6 bays, so they could just maybe shelter their kids' cars, or their in-law cars. So I appreciate what you're bringing before us, and I appreciate the fact that you have really done an enormous thing, this home. Beautiful job in this home. But I just cannot see this big of a variance for our ordinance. And I'm not convinced of the practical difficulty, and I'm so sorry.
Good. Jeff, one question for you. Wouldn't you agree that this is a different situation with the amount of land and the previous garage that was on the property? So if you really look at it, I'm really asking for 3 more stalls, which is what I had before originally. So I'm not asking for more. It's what I already had.
However, that might have gone through a different remedy rather than this.
So are you saying that you had 6 bays before?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
And that building, and it got approved, or here approved it to be that a car storage area for Doug Fox. And he was gonna be upstairs, so it's kind of like, that was what originally happened, and I was like, okay, but then.
Mr. Doug Fox.
Well, it was my building, my property, that I was working a deal to sell to Doug Fox. And because I already owned it, so we already, you know, this is a good point, we already had the extra three stalls.
You were gonna use the stalls in Douglasville upstairs?
No, I was gonna sell it to him,
Okay,
but my point was the property already had 6 stalls on it.
previously, between the two buildings.
All right,
Yes, sir.
and I mean, previously, could that not have been a remedy? I don't know, I guess what I'm just saying is that
So it's unusual.
it's, yeah, I would say that it's unique. I'm not saying that it is, all that unusual, that I would be inclined to grant variance.
But
John had a question, sorry. No, sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Doug Fox originally wanted to store 3 cars there, and he wanted to live upstairs. So he had 3 cars, and he was gonna buy it and save that big tree. So that didn't go through, and he tore it down. So really what you're doing is swapping 3 for 3.
Thank you. And actually, we saved the big tree.
And save the big tree.
Yeah, it's mostly the big tree goes point, Chinese out. And luckily, Paul, he blocked it right there, because that tree is kind of.
Well, frankly,
But the garage was not visibly sighted from Grosse Point Boulevard, and it was not, adjacent to it. It was already there.
That's true.
And so, I mean,
Was.
that's what I'm saying, there could have been another remedy to your situation rather than this.
Well, I was just trying to leave it that we had, originally, there was 3 cars, the house was built, 3 cars, and we had 3 cars back. All new, now it's moving up to the front.
Yes, left.
How about if I touch the waters of the ocean?
Got something. Anybody else? What about, is your motion to approve it?
No.
I'd like to make a motion to approve it. If you don't mind. Either one's a test, so.
Yeah,
go
go
ahead. 5 votes.
You need to.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Wood. I'm just curious because of your comments.
You need 5 votes.
Sorry, it's gotta be a 5 to 2
approve
vote.
a variance.
Okay, it's not a simple majority, it's a super majority on a zoning matter, it's 5 positive.
FYI.
No, you're good, just an FYI. All right, let's trust right.
Yeah, I prefer to do it in the positive. as opposed to the negative. If you don't mind, okay, go ahead. We'll see how this
Let's
goes.
also give you a
I move to approve the application of James D. McConaughey at 270 Grosse Point Boulevard as contained in our packet with regard to a application for a zoning variance in our role as the zoning board of appeals. Variance is required in accordance with Article 17 of the zoning ordinance. I believe that the variance is in harmony with and serves the intent and purpose of the ordinance after considering on the record the information presented with regard to the relation of the requirement, and that the proposed zoning variance does not increase the population density produced on available governmental facilities and on the character of the residential neighborhood of Grosse Point Boulevard. I also believe that the proposed building is in harmony with the predominant type of buildings in that neighborhood, that it's been well done by Blake and Company, and it's consistent in size, character, and location of the intended use. I do not believe that I do believe that the variance will result in substantial justice being done, considering the public benefits intended to be secured by the ordinance referenced during our deliberations this evening, and that the hardships or difficulties suffered if the variance is not granted with regard to the collection of automobiles owned by the McConaughey family and their intent to maintain those automobiles cannot be obviated by some other method other than off-site storage. I do not believe the variance will substantially interfere with or injure the rights of persons whose properties are adjacent to, immediately near, or affected by the proposed variance. I also believe the proposed variance meets the standards of Article 25. I think it is consistent with and promote the interests of the variance, that it's compatible with other land uses, it's consistent with the recommendation by McKenna Planning Associates, and I therefore make that motion. And that is established the practical difficulty with regard to the use of and storage of his automobiles, especially where, as here, many of the council members, I think a majority of us visited that property. I know the mayor and I did, looking at the proposed Joy carriage house, so to speak, several years ago, that we did know that was going to be a huge project. And I believe this is much better than Mr. McConaughey coming back, asking for a driveway up to the back of his property and to build something that will interfere with at least 10 lots per my calculations.
Two things. Is there a condition that you wish to articulate concerning the spruce trees? Buffering, you know, that those spruce trees would remain.
That the spruce trees be remained and at all effort be taken so that the spruce trees will exceed the height of the fence, and if practical, that arborvitae's of at least 15 feet be installed during the entire perimeter of that fencing.
And then any condition as to drainage.
Yeah, that the intended property that through Blake and Company, the applicant present to Mr. Bach and administration a proposed drainage plan with regard to ingress and egress of waters to and from his property that will meet the characteristics of the ordinance and will not interfere with not only the Fraser property, but property of others immediately situated close by.
Question on the arborvitae. Are they even practical with the spruce trees to even grow because of the shade?
Yeah, I mean, the spruce trees are there and they're, 15 feet tall.
So I didn't hear about, I didn't think that, I thought that's what they said. So.
Fair enough. I didn't know they were that tall. I withdraw that question. But if one dies, it's got to be replaced.
With that, Mr. Burgess, do we have a valid motion? Yes. Do I have support?
Support.
Okay. Derek, roll call.
Councilmember Wood,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Emerald, Councilmember Bridges.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Mayor Harris.
Yes. We gotta get that over for the next time, all right? Yes.
Councilmember Dunn.
Yes.
Councilmember Shortcut.
Fortunately, no.
Councilmember Lewis.
Yes.
Motion fails by 4-3 vote.
Do I have to come back? Something different. Thanks. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn as zoning board of appeals and to reconvene as a city council? So moved.
Sure.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 6 from the city council, public hearing regarding the proposed tax millage rates and budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. Mr. Wood, as the chair of our audit budget committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this year it's my privilege to briefly discuss, and I will introduce Tim Rowan to give some slides, slide demonstration, introduce our new budget for next year. General fund budget is over $20 million, the first time that's happened. We have a very robust fund balance, which is 26% of our general fund, which is terrific. There is no change in our overall tax millage rate, which is also terrific. No change from the prior year. We maintain the status of being of the gross points, the lowest tax rate of all the gross points, which is, I think, something for us to be proud of. We do a lot with just a little bit. And also, Tim is going to go into a little bit of a discussion regarding the roads funds. We're going to be spending over $2 million to resurface and repair roads. And that's something that's badly needed. So with that kind of brief overview and introduction, Tim, why don't you go ahead and give us a slide presentation and give us the details.
Thank you. The overall budget highlights you can see throughout the entire budget is consistent staffing, continued service levels, with the only staffing change being the addition of a school resource officer. 3.5% wage increases consistent with union contracts, a healthy housing market with increased assessed and taxable values and strong building permit activity,
modest increases in state share revenue and Act 51 road funding, and expenditures that continue to experience inflationary pressure consistent with the overall economy. The assessed value of the city increased by 7.1%. That's our 12th year in a row of increases in assessed value. Overall taxable value increased 5.95%. So cap properties that did not have any improvements or sales will increase by 5%, which is the Henley max. The actual CPI was 5.1%. We had a very slight rollback on our millage rates of 0.37%. And proposing no change, as Lev mentioned, in our overall millage rate at 16.4655. It shows you our tax rates, the operating millage 11.55, whoops. 88, Roberts millage 2.581, debt millage 0.362, and the road millage 1.96. That total is 16.465. And as Councilmember Wood mentioned, we continue to have the lowest millage rate of the gross points, and we're in line with similar cities like Northville and Plymouth, or a little bit less than us. Where your tax dollar goes. So every tax dollar that you pay on your tax bill at the treasurer's office here at City Hall, only 33 cents of that stays with the city of Grosse Pointe Farms. 36 cents of every dollar goes to the county and the community colleges, and 32 cents goes to the library and the schools. General fund revenue, our proposed budget is $20.045 million. That's an increase of 6.1%. The largest increases in property taxes of $808,000. Licenses and permits are increasing $64,880 due to strong building permit activity. State share revenue largely flat with a $28,600 increase. Charges for services is increasing $210,000. That's primarily due to the reimbursement from the school district for the resource officer. It's being reversed at 100% in year one. 75% in the following years. A slight decrease in fines and forfeitures of $12,300 due to the current projections for court fines. And we continue to have increasing interest income due to the higher interest rates in the markets right now. This shows you in the pie chart how that's split up, with taxes obviously being the largest at 75% of our general fund revenue, followed by charges for services at 11%, state revenue sharing 6%, license and permits at 3%. I want to show this kind of history of the state shared revenue. We've been very stagnant with the revenue sharing from the state for a number of years. You can see over the last 10 years, there's been almost no growth, with that only jump being in 2021 due to our census increasing. General fund expenditures, again, $20,045,000. The court budget is decreasing by $28,000 due to the state no longer charging for the court software program and a decrease in health insurance charges in that department. General government increasing $133,000 to $2.9 million. Major changes there are increased health insurance and liability insurance costs, 3.5% wage increases, and increased contracted IT costs. Public safety increasing by $625,000 to $8.2 million. And due to wage increases or potential retirement bank buyouts and increased healthcare costs. Public works increasing by $188,000 to $3.5 million. Again, due to the healthcare cost increases in refuse disposal costs, and increased costs for vehicle repairs and maintenance. Parks and Recreation is increasing by $130,990 to $1.9 million. With again, major changes being the health insurance costs, building repairs and maintenance, and overall inflationary increases. Transfers out to other departments are $3.046 million, which includes $400,000 to roads, $938,000 for debt payments, $1.5 million to capital projects, and $150,000 for workers' comp insurance. This again shows you in the pie chart the largest category is public safety at 41% of budget, followed by public works at 17.6%, transfers out at 15.2%, and general government at 14.5%. Fund balance in the general fund, we're projecting at the end of the current fiscal year to have to $4.99 million in fund balance. And our proposed budget at $20 million is 24.9% of fund balance, which is right in our target of our fund balance policy of 20 to 30%. For debt service, I just wanted to mention, we're paying off our 2014 Pier Park bond this year, and the following year will be the last year for the harbor bonds. So those will be coming off the books over the next 2 years. And the water fund will be paying off in this year, the 2014 refunding bond. But the 2015 water improvement bond there at the bottom, you can see we're paying interest only right now. So that principal payment will kick in, so we're not gonna see a decrease in water at all governmental funds for now. Capital projects, we have $1.8 million budgeted for capital improvements. That includes $200,000 for the sidewalk repair program, $45,000 for technology and office equipment upgrades, $1.08 million for vehicles and equipment, which includes 2 patrol vehicles, an administrative vehicle for the police department, body cams and in-car radar replacements, fire turnout gear, $100,000 towards the reserve for the next fire truck. And the big purchase is the replacement of the Vector truck at the Public Works Department at $510,000. Improvements for Pier Park, City Hall, and Public Works, $495,000 includes resurfacing the floors at the community building, chair replacements in the community building, and picnic table replacements. As well as dog park parking lot repairs, $100,000 for the City Hall Improvement Fund, and $25,000 for Hill Streetscape improvements with the planters and bird bakers. Road projects, we have $2.9 million overall in the road funds this year. Just over $2 million of that is for the road resurfacing and paving program. Which will be the next item on the agenda after the budget. But I just wanted to mention that's funded through road millage at $1.2 million, $1.2 million from the state F51 funds, $46,000 from interest, and $400,000 from the general fund transfer. So the road millage actually brings in about $1.9 million. We're only planning on spending 1.2 of that this year, and money that will do a larger program next year. Legacy costs, we have estimated pay-as-you-go for retired healthcare of $1.195 million. We're planning making $300,000 of additional contributions to bring our liability down for a total of $1.495 million for retired healthcare. Required pension contributions, $639,860. We plan to make $605,000 in additional contributions to fund our liability for a total of $1.244 million. We show where our percentages are funding are on those. For the general, we're at 87% for pension, and police and fire at 106%. For retired healthcare, we're at 67% for general and 80% for public safety. So you can really see over the last couple of years, you can see those percentages, especially in the retired healthcare, go up due to those additional contributions. Next, just shows you the overall fund balance levels in each of our governmental funds. So you can see we have healthy fund balance levels in our road funds and general fund. We also have $2.3 million available in the capital projects fund to fund future projects. With that, I'll take any questions on the general fund budget.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Mr. Rowland, working on a budget committee with Mr. Wood and the mayor. I sincerely appreciate your time and attention to detail on all of this. Same with City Manager Reeside. And I know you're looking for an assistant in the not too distant future, but we are very, very fortunate to have a gentleman as well versed as Mr. Rowland and his team, and the city manager as well. There are numerous communities throughout the state of Michigan. Don't get any ideas. We're looking for finance directors like crazy, and they can't find anybody even closely with the credentials that Mr. Rowland has. That's why we're in good shape. That's why we have to remain in good shape as compared to our local neighbors. Thank you.
Yes, Joe and Linda. We go back to the sidewalks, 200,000. So if you figure $200 a slab, that's 1,000 replacements. It doesn't go too far. So I would like to see an increase in that. to be honest with you. Maybe Mr. Reese, I can answer that.
Well, we are, as part of our road programs, we have been incorporating sidewalk replacements when we've done new roads, so we paid Kirby, all the sidewalks replaced. We're still back, we still have some additional work to do on Ridge and Kirchable, but that's happening. We've been very aggressive on our sidewalks over the last 6 months. Last fall, we did, it was over 200 slabs. This spring, we've actually identified all sidewalks that have been damaged because of city tree roots, intersections, and I think we've now replaced everything between Mack Avenue and Chalfont and in both the northwest quadrant and all the way down to Bishop. So
Just, there's a few left to do, but for the most part, yeah.
so we've got a punch list, and where we are, I think we've been aggressive, and if we need some additional dollars, we will make additional allocations.
Thank you.
Tim, I congratulate you too, and Lev, and everyone on your committee. I think it's just a reminder as far as, you know, the fund balance looks very good. We had a little problem with that maybe 3 years ago, where we wanted to lift that up, especially for the healthcare situation. But I'm wondering if you could just refresh for me, and I'm looking at the pensions, because we have a lot of different neighboring communities who've had problems with their pension plans. How many pension plans do we have? I know we would have it for public safety, and we represent a number of different unions that we employ, we partner with. But how many pension funds do we have?
We just have the 2 pension funds. We have one for general employees that's closed, so no new hires are going into that program. And the public safety pension fund, which is still open. Meaning that new hires in public safety would still get a pension.
Thank you.
I think, Tim, it's important to note that when you say closed, it doesn't mean that it's not paying out. It's paying out to those who were in it before it closed.
Right. So no new hires would go into that plan for general.
All right, so then there would be a total, I mean, additional addition from 2?
No, so just the 2. One's closed and one's open.
Thank you.
Sarah.
I just have a comment. When I was first appointed to city council, Tim, one of the things that Shane did was set me down and had me understand the budget, number 1. Number 2, one of my advisors in Detroit said, one of the things I want you to remember in this very season is know the budget. Residents want to know where's the money. And so I applaud you and Shane and everybody else on the committee for being integral. Because if the numbers don't add up, one of the things Shane said, you go through all these documents, different sheets, and each one will balance. And if it doesn't balance, we have a problem. So that's one of the things I look for in going through the budget. So again, thank you. I piggyback Councilman Galuli for his comments made to you all. I piggyback that, just had brain pain for a minute. Okay.
That guy down there in the big suit.
Senior moment. And so thank you, Lev and John and Tim and Shane and whoever else serves on that committee. Thank you. Oh, Louis. Oh, the mayor. Yes, thank you. Okay.
It's one of those nice ones.
Yeah, my one request would be, it'd be great to pull out this PowerPoint and put it up where we have the minutes for the meeting. I think it's a really great distillation of all the information in our budget. And actually, to that extent, could you go back one slide? I just had one question because I was confused. So it says the estimated fund balance in 7/1/24, and then it says the estimated fund balance in 6/30. Should the first one be 20? Is that?
Because the last one should be 25.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so yeah, that one. Okay,
Yes.
I noticed that. Okay, thank you.
Good catch.
Wow, yeah.
We're just like $2 million in one day.
Yeah. One day is gonna be very expensive.
Anybody else on council? So I will echo everybody, Tim, administration, it's a heavy lift. We've got a lot of big projects going on and more to come. Appreciate all the hard work from the administration and from each department and getting to Tim and everybody a budget that will work for us going into next year. We've still got a lot of capital items to work on as we move forward, so sidewalks and roads and the other things. So at least having a clean house as on a day-to-day budget will help us move forward when we get some other big capital expenses. So thank you, hard work to your entire team and Shane, for your department. That's greatly appreciated. Public, who wants to speak? Oh, I had to get us hand up fast. Come on up, name and address, please.
Take it fast.
Got the hand up fast, so that worked.
Adrian, 306 Fisher. Can we get a copy of that PowerPoint? Tim? Sure. Yeah. So I didn't. I wasn't aware of it. I looked at it. You guys did a pretty good job. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We'll just put, I might just put a link on the webpage like we did for the one, where it's just on the front page, budget presentation. People go to the page and just click right into it.
Mr. Garrett, with that, I just have a question. Tim, in the past, we've sent out that little, brochure with the pie chart. Will we be doing that again this year?
So that's actually from the audits that gets sent out in January, February each year based on the audit results.
The award-winning report.
Yes.
So we send out multiple years running, right?
I imagine that ceremony is a lot like the Oscars.
I've been a seat filler at it. So anybody else in the public, any questions or comments? Seeing none, public comments closed. What's the pleasure of council? Lev?
I make a motion to approve proposed tax millage rates and budget as submitted, which is summarized in Tim Mullins' memo dated May 20th, 2024.
Support? Anybody?
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, consideration of request to approve water and sewer rates for fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. And this one will just jump straight to Mr. Rowland.
So we're proposing a 4% increase in the overall water and sewer rates. We got our pass-through sewage charge from Glaze Water Authority did go down slightly by 1.2% this year. But we're also decreasing our consumption estimate based on the last number of years usage, that trend of usage from 51.2 million units to 50.7 million units. Significant capital improvements in the water and sewer fund include the water plant generator, the water main replacement on Muir of $675,000, $250,000 for sewer lining, and $300,000 for lead service line replacements and catch basin rebuilds. This shows you graphically that usage history where you can see we're on this downward trend. We had a pretty good year 2 years ago, but this year back down to estimating only 50,000 units this year. So that downward trend is continuing. So what that 4% change in water rate includes the water rate, a variable water rate of $33.15 per 1,000 units, 1,000 cubic feet. $18 for water improvements, which funds the water main replacements and capital improvements. $55.67 for the sewer. That's the direct pass through for Village Water Authority. That's roughly half of our rate is direct pass through to the Village Water Authority. $5.78 for sewer improvement, which is the direct cost for a sewer bond replacement. Flat charge, $60.77 per cycle for a total of $173.37. So what that means to the bill payers, the minimum bill of 7 units will increase by $5.38 every 2 months, or $32.28 per year. For the average user who uses 24 units, they see an increase of $12.76 every 2 months, or $76.56 per year. That's down the water rates.
Questions from council?
I have a statement. Can you go back to the consumption chart? I find that fascinating here. Yeah, look at this. You know, in the years past, we've relied on consumption, right, to primarily fund the water and sewer fund, right? And we're getting away from that a little bit now, right? As I understand what we're trying to do by increasing the flat rate. It is really interesting to see how. And I have no idea, maybe you've got, why is this doing, why are we not, using more water? I don't have any ideas, but if this continues, we're gonna have to, continue to look at more and more and more, so.
It's a number of things. People are being less, wasteful. In terms of I'm watering my lawn less because it's costly. Probably half of our toilets have been replaced from 5-gallon flushes to 1.5-gallon flushes, right? Because every renovation, people are putting in the toilet, so over the years, you got more efficient shower heads, faucets, and, you know, our residents are prone to, you know, making renovations to their homes, which then reduces water consumption. Population has been pretty steady, but, you know, my household used to have 4, now it's got 2, so we use a lot less water. So, could be the mix of how many residents we have, are the kids, are they older, et cetera. And I think maybe people showering less, so there's a whole combination of things. I think led primarily with, I'm just not gonna water my lawn 5 days a week, I'm gonna do it 3 days a week, or 4 days a week, right? So it's a combination of everything.
But it is very interesting trends, and, you know, I just wanted to point that out as a very interesting chart that you had there, so thanks for this. Yeah.
Well, you also have another letter, I mean, there's something else right here, from your report, and that is unusually wet summer resulting in decreased.
Oh, that's what I forgot, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, wet rain, more rain means less
Yeah,
water.
and 2 years ago was a really hot summer, just waited to spike up 3 years ago. But the overall trend is downward.
We want a hot, dry summer. That's what
Yes.
we want.
No, they don't. Oh, see.
No, we don't.
Well, we clearly had you going around the schools. All right, any other questions from council? Anybody in the public, questions on these items? Seeing that none, public comment is closed. What's the pleasure of council? Lev?
Sure, I'll make a motion, to approve the proposed water and sewer rate schedule, become effective for all bills rendered after July 1st, 2024, which includes an increase of $4.34 per 1,000 cubic feet of actual metered water usage, and an increase of $2.34 per billing cycle in the flat charge for service.
Support?
Or
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, consideration of a request to approve recycling rates for fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. Mr. Roll.
So we're currently under a 5-year contract with GFL for recycling that expires September 30th of 2026. Has a 3% annual increase in the rates from GFL. But our current rate of $12 every 2 months on the water bill is sufficient to cover the cost of that contract. So we're proposing no change in the rate, giving that $12 every 2 months.
All in favor? Any questions from council? Any questions from council? Nope. Anybody in the public have any questions on this? Public comment is closed. Pleasure of council. I'll entertain a motion that the proposal to maintain the recycling rates at the current rate and to not increase them. Do I have so moved?
Yes.
So moved. Support?
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consideration, item 9, consideration of a request from administration to approve the 2024 road program. Is that Mr. Rowland again, or is that you, Shane?
I'll take this one.
Okay.
I think we have a slide that I can put up. So this will be our 4th year of an accelerated road program due to our 2-mil road millage that was approved. And it's actually our last year, our 5th year of collecting taxes on that 5-year millage. With that said, we will be coming back to City Council with a recommendation in the next month or 2 with a proposed extension of that millage. We have done a lot. This map identifies the areas that have been done over the last 3 years in red, green, and blue, and then harder to see are the yellow areas, which are intended for this year's program, which includes Newberry Place, which really is a carryover from last year. If you recall, there was more extensive concrete work that needed to be done than HRC's original estimate. And so what we did do is we went back, we looked at what that would be. And it was really decided that by replacing a greater percentage of the concrete road, you'd have more of a patchwork of concrete pavement, and you get a real undulation when you drive over all those seams. So really the more prudent, I think, approach that HRC is recommending is that for Newberry, we'll do a complete grade of the road. It will be milled, and then an asphalt overlay. So it will be essentially a new street, an asphalt road, and it will ride much smoother and look aesthetically much better than kind of the patchwork that we had originally discussed. Other roads slated for this year are Lewiston, Chalfont, between Madison and Kirby, Calvin between Chalfont and Webster, and the public alleys along adjacent to Back Avenue, which are really in poor condition, and so I think will be important to address. The last area we intend to do is a new road, and the reason that was identified not only because of the poor condition of the road, but it's a road that is in need of a water main replacement. It's currently a 4-inch main that serves the hospital. So part of this project would include upgrade of that main. We currently have permits submitted with Eagle for that approval. And once approved, we intend to bring back that to council before the end of the paving season, and then and repave in conjunction with that road, that water main project. So in summary, the emphasis really over the last 3 years has been our main roads with Kirby, Ridge, Kercheval, Fisher Road, and then we were able to get Wayne County to do the repaving of Lakeshore Road. So good headway, but there's a lot more to do. I think the focus after this initial 5-year period will be more the more local roads, which frankly allow us to do a greater quality just because of the size of the roads and the construction methods on the major roads. The other thing mentioned is that what the thing was. We're making good.
Let me move that direction.
Strike that, but so good progress. The other thing I was going to mention is, as much as we've been able to do, what has hurt us over the last really 4 years is that we've seen construction costs accelerate much higher than the rate of inflation. We've probably seen about a 40% increase in the cost of road work from when the initial bond was approved. And that's really primary because of much higher labor costs and much higher material costs for the asphalt and concrete. So and with that, we would request that City Council would approve the recommendation of HRC to award the 2024 road improvement program to Nagel Paving Company with the total project cost not to exceed $2.205 million.
Okay, any questions for Shane from the council? Neil.
It's in conversation, and please, maybe you can correct some of the confusion. We share Fisher Road with Grosse Pointe City, correct? But the part that goes from the boulevard to, do we share the two?
I was going to mention that
because that's a real nasty stretch of road.
We talked about it. Yeah, absolutely. Right. That really is probably one of the roads in the poorest condition in the city. We do share that cost with Grosse Pointe City, and so. However, why it's on this year's program, we had contemplated putting it on this year's program, but we've actually now applied for 2 separate sources of funding for the repaving. It's a federal aid eligible road, so we made an FAC application for repaving that goes in the pool with all of Wayne County, and then they disperse based upon certain factors, including mainly condition of road condition, traffic volume, and so forth. We've also made an application for a federal direct spending request, and we actually had support. So the joint letter came from Grosse Pointe City, Grosse Pointe Fire was requesting Senator Peters for that funding. Letters also came from the school system and the library requesting that funding. So we're hoping that will be part of next year's program as part of a grant. If not, Grosse Pointe City is committed to spending those funds next year, as well as Grosse Pointe Fire.
So it would be from Jefferson all the way down to Kercheval, is that right? Is that what we asked for?
For the grant funding, yes, depending where we do it, we may break it up in two parts if we end up doing it on our own.
Any other questions from council on the road paving? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Do I have a motion to accept HR's recommendation to approve not to exceed total construction budget of $2.20560.25 million for a road rehabilitation project in 2020? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10, consent agenda. Does anybody want any items A through C removed from the consent agenda for individual consideration?
Steve, just because I have a question.
Anybody else? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, D, and E. I'll make that motion. Support?
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10C, consideration of a request to renovate platform tennis courts at Pier Park. Mr. Stroker has a question.
I should have, well, I'm asking because I needed an answer. Monday, that's a good reason why that's the question. I just noticed all over this, it says Monday, May 6th as a requirement to get the funding, the different rate. I assume that was extended.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not having any problem with our bid being, because at one point they say it could be subject to a higher price if it's received.
My understanding is that they would hold the cost for this meeting.
Great.
Thanks. Do I have a motion? Any other questions on 10C? Anybody in the public want to comment on 10C? All right, we'll see pleasure of council on item 10C.
I'd like to move to approve the consideration of the request to renovate the platform tennis courts at.
Support. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. You have the public safety, item 11, you have the public safety report for April 2024 in front of you. You also have the quarterly financial report for the 9 months ending March 31, 2020. Item 12, other business, Mr. Reside.
This weekend will be a big weekend. Official opening of the summer season at Pier Park. The pool will open up Saturday at 10 a.m. and my concession stand will be open. I've been told that we have the same concessionaire as last year. I think it's council was aware, but she's added some new things to the menu and I've actually purchased an additional fryer to help expedite food service. So things are going well. We've gotten a great turnout already for our program sign up. I think as of today, we have 140 kids in our swim team program, which is a lot of people this early. So looking forward to that, to a full summer. And I encourage residents to look at our website and our registration for the various classes that are going to be offered throughout the summer. Two other items. I think as council is aware, there has been discussion with Village Market on Back Avenue for reconfiguration of the parking lot. There's also been discussion of desire by Village Market to use the second floor of the market for a restaurant use. And so there's a lot involved, obviously, in terms of those requirements. And so it's my recommendation that council hold a work session, that we would have the opportunity to hear the proposal from Village Market, invite surrounding residents, and really as a work session, just listen to the proposal, ask questions before we schedule anything formal for council consideration. With that end, in terms of meeting dates, one thought would be actually if we have a fairly light agenda for next month, which at this point looks like it would be light, maybe have our meeting earlier, start at 6 o'clock versus 7 o'clock, do an hour work session before we go into our regular meeting, and go from there. Possibility if it ends up being a really light agenda, we could actually do a 7 o'clock meeting and have the work session immediately following. But if that day looks good, I would ask that you tentatively put June 10th, 6 p.m. on your calendars.
Shane, how do you notice that just like any other public meeting, for the residents, or do you go more extensively?
I think what we would do, because, I think we would go 300, actually 2 ways. Normally we'd go 300-foot radius, and so we'd want to do that. But I think we'd actually want to hit all the homes on McKinley to the, to the next intersection.
Right. Okay.
So it's our Mac Michelle.
So we'll make it a little bit of a modified, thing to include more people.
Exactly.
Yeah, good.
Is that all you have, sir?
And then just, I would ask that after our regular meeting that we would have a brief closed session to discuss personnel and real estate.
Anybody else have other business? Joe?
Pickleball. Oh, that's gonna be, thank you. Pickleball court construction is going on. Pickleball construction is going on. It is slated that the courts will be completed by mid-June, and we expect that it'll be on schedule. Things are going well.
John?
Very briefly, Mr. Mayor, with regard to the ordinance committee, through the good work of our city attorney, Bill Burgess, and administration, we're undertaking currently a complete relook at the ordinances of the city of Grosse Pointe Farms. We plan to convene a meeting of the ordinance committee later this fall to address several substantive changes to some important ordinances. Also, with regard to the Parks and Harbor Committee, which Mayor Pro Tem Conrad Wilberding and Councilmember Soroka sit on with me. We've had a couple very good meetings. One was this past week discussing the number of carryover employees from previous years, which is fantastic. All but 2 boat slips are full. Maintenance at the park is great, but most importantly as well, through administration, we've convened a 20-member subcommittee to look at revitalization of a new pool, a new bathhouse. We had perfect attendance at our last meeting. We are currently working on dates for an upcoming meeting to discuss already proposed drawings. We have a wide variety of people on the committee, from swim team moms, with due respect, to city planners, engineers. We had very, very good dialogue. Several of us were there, at least 4 or 5 of us for the last meeting up here with City Manager Reside. So we look for great things to come to preserve our jewel and to enhance it going forward. Thank you, sir. Sorry.
Thank you for the update. Not at all. Anybody else? I got a couple things. First, on your ordinance review, while I totally respect the decision we made today, I'd like you to look at the ordinance on the 1 car, with 1 garage. I'm a firm believer in property rights, maybe I should have said this more strongly, that is a very small addition to a huge lot, 10% underneath the lot coverage there. I think they did the right thing by not giving that apartment box. And yes, we have a community that does collect cars and pay gauges and hobbies that other communities don't. I get it. But at the same time, I think sometimes our ordinance might be too restrictive on property owner's rights to use his lot in a way, his or her lot in a way that is still fine for the community, but allows them to use their property. That might be in accordance with how they choose to live in our community. So I just, there can be parameters on it, they can do whatever it is. But I look back now what we did on Ross, I think his use was, I need it because I got more cars, and it balances out the house and all this other stuff. So I'm not saying just for this instance, but if I think we've had other instances where we might not allow people to use their lots to the fullest potential, that does not interfere with the neighbors, that does not ruin the harmony of the community, that does not impact it negatively. And that there was other parts of our zoning ordinance from 100 years ago that when we did it, when I was the chair of the ordinance committee, when we passed it in the late 2008, 9, whatever that 15-year ago full revision was, when we put the big Ford ordinance in and all that bear looking at. Anyways, that's my 2 cents on your committee. Also, I have a letter here from the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks. Just want to let the public know, I think you guys saw this in email, that the Association of Municipal Clerks is pleased to announce that our city clerk and assistant city manager, Derek Kazicki, has met the program criteria and has obtained a level 3 MIPMC certification. So congratulations, Derek. Your diligence has done that. The letter goes on to say Derek's commitment to education, desire to maintain certification, defines commitment to the clerk's profession and your community, On behalf of the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks and Board of Directors, I ask that you join us and congratulate Derek for this accomplishment and well-deserved recognition. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate it. And I got a call from Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson a few weeks ago. And it was funny because I got a call from her lead person, says, well, the Secretary of State wants to talk to you about a convention. Great. What phone number will she be using to call me? I'll email it to you. Call it back. I need the phone number because I don't answer phone numbers that I don't know. And I didn't answer. Hi, Mary Theros, Jocelyn Benson. And I'm like, well, they never got the phone number. So I called her back. Anyways, her purpose is just to make sure I said, that we have all the news going out to our citizens about all the methods by which they can vote, et cetera. And I said, our team, Derek, does a great job. We had 82% participation in our last presidential election. And if we have things that'll get up to 92%, great. But Derek does a great job and letting the community know. And, because she went into the whole, I won't say disinformation, said, well, at least the thing I have here is generally, we've got people who really do study. And that's why we had 82% turnout, because people are involved in the political process. So Derek, thank you for all you do, making our elections run smoothly and making it available to all of our citizens to vote. Any other business here? Public, any other business? All right, I need a motion to convene in a closed session.
And we won't be returning.
We won't have to return. But you want to tell us what the team, what your the challenges are?
Oh, yeah. So the department, over the last 10, 15 years, I've been going to conferences. Many other departments have challenge coins, and like trading patches used to be a thing. Now it's about the coins, and the coins signify community support. That's why everyone here got it, for those who support law enforcement. And so what we did a couple months ago, we had the whole department submit designs, so all the officers were participated in it. We came up with this design for the coin, and that's what we're going to go with. There's a lot of there's a lot of meaning to that coin and the symbols that are on there. And just for instance, on the 3 badges, the silver badge, if you look closely, it's badge number 17, which represents Ken Pine, who was killed in line of duty in 7. So there's all those little tricks in that we can get in detail later. The local newspapers are going to do a story this week, which will break it down in detail. So
thank you. All right, I need a motion and a roll call vote to adjourn as city council, and we're not coming back after closed session, and then have a closed session. So a motion to adjourn to a closed session, not coming back. So moved.
Second.
There.
Hey, Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzo.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Everybody be safe. Enjoy the 88-degree day tomorrow.
I have my ear conditioning up there.